Well, hello. Welcome. I'm glad that you're here with us today as we continue our chronological read through of the Bible. Today we're going to continue with 8 more psalms written by David. Psalm 6, the first of our psalms for today, is the first of 7 penitential psalms that are scattered throughout the book of Psalms. And it's the last of 4 psalms written as morning and evening prayers right here at the very beginning of the book of Psalms. Notice that even though David fears the wrath of God, in the end, he ultimately flees to God for refuge. May God grant you that same disposition that even when you're afraid of God's wrath or possibly are angry with God for what you perceive he has done to you or allowed to happen to you, still you flee to him for refuge and for deliverance, because it is only in God that those are found. Psalm 8 is a psalm of praise. It points to the majesty of God and to the miracle that despite his greatness, he's mindful of man and he cares for them. Indeed, in Genesis, God gave man dominion over his creation. Hebrews chapter 2, verses 6 to 8 teaches that this psalm speaks of Jesus Christ. For Jesus alone fulfills what is spoken of man in verses 5 through 8. Remember that in a state of humiliation, Jesus was indeed a little lower than the angels. There's a number of links between Psalms 9 and 10, the next 2 that you're going to read. Some people presume that these were originally a single psalm that were later broken apart, although they always appear as 2 psalms in the Hebrew texts. We're going to obviously read them as 2 psalms, as that's the way they are in our Bible as well. In Psalm 9, we read this dizzying list of God's activity, past, present, and future. His omnipotence is on clear display. But notice David's confidence that when God's judgment falls on the wicked, it will not fall on him, because God is his refuge. God is his avenger. In Psalm 10, David then goes on to describe the wicked who will be judged. And the picture is really not pretty at all. Notice, though, that though the righteous appear to be weak and at the mercy of those who are wicked, as though God is standing far off and letting all this happen, God is not absent. He has not forgotten their plight. No, for God will act, and the wicked will oppress the righteous no more. I read that eschatologically. In other words, on the last day, that is indeed what will happen. Although between now and then, we will continue to live in this now but not yet state that we're in. Psalm 14, our next psalm. It's brief, and in many ways is summarized by its opening thought. The fool says in his heart, there is no God. In 7 brief verses, David sums up the state of the fallen man without God. As you read this psalm, remember that we're no better than those that it speaks of, except that in his grace, God has given us Christ and given us faith in him. So humbly, we look forward to the day of his return. Psalm 16 exudes a personal relationship with God. David takes refuge in God, and he seeks good only in God. Even in death, David has confidence that God will preserve and restore him. Indeed, Peter quoted this psalm in his Pentecost sermon, and he applies it to the risen Christ, who was not abandoned to Sheol and whose body did not see corruption. Though troubles may hound us continually, sometimes we're granted this moment of respite, an interlude of praise for all that God is and has done for us. Psalm 19 is just such an interlude. Be carried along for a moment with David as he wonders at the creation of God, as he acknowledges the glory of God revealed in his word, and even in the lives of those who put their trust in him. David asks God to forgive him of even the sins he doesn't know. And he closes with the request that the words of his mouth and the thoughts of his heart would be acceptable to God, his rock and his redeemer. Indeed, that is a prayer that we do well to repeat often with our whole heart and mind. Our final psalm for today is Psalm 21. Psalm 21 is generally paired with Psalm 20. Psalm 20 is the king's prayer for victory in battle. Psalm 21 is the king's prayer of thanksgiving for that victory. So while Psalm 21 certainly speaks of the earthly victories that God granted King David, it speaks to us also of the eternal victory God has given us over the devil through Jesus Christ. Well, over sin, death, and the devil through Jesus Christ. We look not to ourselves as the source of this victory, but with David, we give credit 100% to God for giving us the victory through his great power and might. What untold blessings we receive through the boundless grace and mercy of God who fights for us and delivers us. Well, may God be with you and bless you. I pray that as we read these Psalms, these writings of David during his trials and tribulations, that they become your own, that you will be strengthened, encouraged, and edified by them. May God be with you and bless you. I look forward to joining with you again tomorrow.